ஆழ்வார் திருடிகளே சரணம், எம்பெருமானார் திருடிகளே சரணம், பிள்ளைலோக்காச்சாரியர் திருடிகளே சரணம், ஜீயர் திருடிகளே சரணம், ஜீயர் திருடிகளே சரணம். ஸ்ரீசைலேஷ தயாபாத்திரம் தீபக்தியாதி குணார்ணவம் யதீந்திர பிரமணம் வந்தே நம்ம ஜாமாத்திரம் முனி ரம்ய ஜாமாத்திரி யோகீந்திர பாதரேகாமயம் சதா ததா யத்தாத்ம சத்தாதியம் ராமானுஜ முனிம் பஜே லக்ஷ்மீநாத சமாரம்பாம் நாத யாமுன மத்தியமாம் அஸ்மத் ஆச்சாரிய பரியந்தாம் வந்தே குரு பரம்பராம் யோ நித்யமச்சுத பதாம்புஜ யுக்மருக்ம व्यामोहत स्थगितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर् भगवतोऽस्य देयिक सिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये मातापिता युतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य न कुलपतेरुकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगडं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं सरश्च महताह्वये भट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसारकुलशेखर योगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेण परकाल यतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम् लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगी सन्दष्ट जीवजीवातवे नमः. We've been enjoying piLLai prapanna parithrANam for the last couple of weeks. We've had 2 sessions. This prapanna parithrANam talks about akinchanyam and ananyagatitvam. These 2 aspects are very much expected from a prapanna. The prapanna is a person who surrenders to Bhagavan, and in such prapanna, as part of the sharanagati, as a prerequisite, the individual must have these 2 aspects, akinchanyam and ananyagatitvam. Akinchanya is not having any other means to attain Bhagavan. That is, we are devoid of karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, trinama sankirtanam, divyadesha vasam, making garlands for Bhagavan, cleaning Bhagavan's temple. All of these are shown as upayam to reach Bhagavan in Shastram. Akinchanyam is the state where we realize and declare that we have none of these as upayam. We may be performing our regular duties. We may be acquiring knowledge. We may be having devotion. So karma, jnana, bhakti, these are all there. But they are not there as means to attain Bhagavan. Rather, they are part of our natural existence. We don't do karma yoga and expect something in return from Bhagavan. We don't perform jnana yoga and expect something from Bhagavan. We don't perform trinama sankirtanam, reciting Bhagavan's names, divine names, and expect something in return from Bhagavan. We do all of these as kainkaryam. So that is the state of akinchanyam. And then ananyagatitvam. Ananyagatitvam is the state of having no other refuge. We should only consider Bhagavan as the only refuge for us. We should not consider anyone else as refuge. So these 2 aspects are very much required in a prapanna, and that is the theme of this grantham, this wonderful literature given by piLLai mercifully to us, talks mainly about these 2, akinchanyam and ananyagatitvam. And in that, piLLai first talks about ananyagatitvam, that we should not have anyone else as our refuge. For that, he proves categorically that, first of all, no one can be our refuge other than Bhagavan. Because we would think that our brothers would help us, our sons will help us, our mother, father, they'll help us. And then Brahma, Rudra, Indra, Varuna, many devatas are there. They may be helping us. And then there is wealth. Even if you don't have any other people support, if you have money, then we think we can survive and we can manage. So all of these are said to be refuge for us to get certain things done. piLLai lOkAchAryar category explains that none of these are going to help us in the real sense. That is, to be liberated from this samsara. Neither father, mother, brother, or other devatas or wealth, none of this is going to come and help us. Only Bhagavan can help us. So that is explained by giving many examples. So for each category, piLLai lOkAchAryar gives an example saying, look, this particular entity did not help someone who depended on that particular entity. So in this manner, he explains the nature of all of the entities, that they cannot really help an individual to be liberated. Only Bhagavan can do it. So that is what we have been seeing so far in the past two sessions, and we will continue on with that. In the first session, we saw how all the relatives, brothers, children, parents, husband or wife, how they cannot help us. And then in the second session, we saw how Devatas, Brahma, Rudra, Indra, and all other Devatas, how they cannot help us by seeing several examples that they themselves are bound by karma in this world. So they themselves are fighting for their survival and existence, and so on. In such case, how can they help us? They themselves commit mistakes and look out for the mercy of Bhagavan to be rescued from difficult situations, disastrous situations. When they are in such state, how can they liberate us? So that is not possible. So that is what we have seen in the last two sessions. Now we will continue on with the final section. Whether artham means wealth. Wealth protect us. That is the next portion. We will go through that. Once we go through this particular portion, then we have Akinchanyam. We can see about that, and then that will conclude the Grantham. So piLLai lOkAchAryar goes on, ini artham rakshakamahu. So he starts whether wealth will be protecting us, will wealth deliver us? That is the question. And if we analyze that, he explains wealth, whatever we have, we may be one of the wealthiest person in the world, but still our wealth may be stolen by thieves and robbers. We may lose the wealth by being madly loved some woman. For a man, it's a woman. For a woman, it's a man. We have to keep it like that. Due to our love, unlimited love towards somebody, we may spend all our wealth and become pretty much having nothing in our hands. And then the rulers, the leaders of the nation, or the administrative setup, they can overtake our wealth. And then there is our relatives, they may take our wealth. A disease may take our wealth. And then finally, one may kill oneself in the fight to protect one's wealth, even by consuming poison. So all of these are explained as the reason reasons to prove that wealth is not going to protect us, because that itself is not permanent. We'll see each aspect a little bit more in depth. So we may have lot of wealth. Suddenly, some thieves, robbers may walk into our home. They may threaten us with some weapons. They may take all our wealth or whatever wealth we have at home, and they may even harm us. We see many incidents every day. We see in the news that people come and steal others' wealth. Jewels were lost, cash was lost, and so on. Now we may think that, oh, nowadays we don't have that problem because we have everything in the bank. We don't keep the cash at home. In the olden days, people would keep cash at home and jewels at home. Those were the main wealth. But we may think that now we have kept everything in bank, so it's all safe. But then even banks go bankrupt. Even sometimes banks get stolen. Banks are robbed sometimes. We may have lockers in banks and where we keep everything safe, but sometimes they break in and take everything away from our locker. What can we do? So nowadays we also have many scams or spams where people come and get our wealth by fake calls or pretending to be helping us, making some promise that our wealth will be doubled or something along the lines, and take our wealth and we lose everything. So these things happen. So all of these come under thieves, robbers taking. And then we may lose our wealth for our love. Let's say we like a person, we want to impress that person, so we give our wealth to that person. But then that person may take the wealth and run away, or take the wealth and abandon us. So these things again, none of these are imaginary. Everything is real. Even what happens nowadays, we see many stories and news items where similar things are presented. And then king taking over. Several years ago in our Bharata Desham, there were many wealthy zamindars and many people who had land, and people would come and peasants would come and work on the land. There was a law passed that those who work on the farm or land, they get ownership. The original owner no longer have ownership. The land is for the worker. So things like this can happen. We see, for example, in African nations, suddenly, because of apartheid, where racism was practiced, then the reverse happened. The local people got more power, and then they started punishing the ones who came from outside and settled there, and many people lost their wealth in that. So we see that happening. And of course there is the tax regime. Of course, government always takes some of our wealth in the form of taxes, and of course they are supposed to do something with that tax money for the benefit of the country, but they do take the wealth in that manner as well. And then relatives taking our wealth, that also is seen in many families. We see intra-family um, legal issues where somebody says that my land has been taken over by my cousin or my uncle or somebody. So we see that. And then there is disease consuming our wealth. Nowadays, sometimes people get big diseases, and that takes a lot of money to get treated. Something like cancer, for example, people spend lakhs in treatment only to finally give up the treatment and lose their life as well. So things like that happen. So this disease can take our wealth. This can be individual's disease as well as general disease outbreaks in the place where we live. In the past, there was the famous plague in Britain, where many people lost their lives and lost their wealth as well as part of the issue. So these things are there, and finally, um, this wealth may kill the owner itself, the owner of the wealth itself. How? When somebody tries to take over the wealth or put so much pressure, torment, mental torture, and so on, sometimes the owner, they commit suicide by consuming poison because they are not able to put up with the pressure of dealing with the wealth, and so many different persons may be trying to grab the wealth or put some pressure on the individual and so on. That leads to people committing suicide. We see again everything, whatever is listed by piLLai lOkAchAryar. Again, this Grantham is about 800 years old. None of this is expired. None of this concept is expired. Every single thing is still relevant today, even today. So, because of all of these reasons, this wealth, it cannot also protect us. So, with this, piLLai lOkAchAryar has explained that brothers, parents, children, and then spouse, devatas, and our wealth, none of these is going to really protect us and liberate us. So, who is the real liberator? Who is the real protector? So, that is Bhagavan, Ishvara, Sriman Narayana. So, that is explained in the next portion. So, Bhagavan, Ishvara is a term which is commonly used in the present day and even in the past to depict Shiva, Rudra. But the real meaning for Ishvara is one who naturally controls everything. So that is Bhagavan Sriman Narayana only. It is like my name is Sarathi. It is Bhagavan Krishna's name. Just because I am Sarathi, I cannot really become the real Sarathi. It is just that I have his name. Similarly, Rudra is having, Shiva is having Ishvara, which is Bhagavan's name. That's all. Same with Shiva also. Shiva means auspicious. So that is also Bhagavan's name only. That is kept to Shiva because his father, Brahma, thought that if we keep that name, he will be remaining auspicious as well. So the point is, Ishvara is the name for Bhagavan, Sriman Narayana. So what does he do? Even when parents give up children, at that time also Bhagavan protects us. There is a pasuram. Thirumangalvar's pasuram is quoted. Parakala Swami's pasuram. பின்னென்று அடியேனு குற்றானாய் வளர்த்து என் உயிராகி நின்றான். Even after my parents abandoned me, he remained with me. Bhagavan remained with me always. He nurtured me, he raised me, and he remains as my Antaryami always, says Thirumangalvar. And how does he do it? He conceals his real form and appears in different other forms. Sometimes when we are in trouble, Bhagavan appears in a form which is familiar to us. Sometimes, let's say, just to understand clearly, our parents are guiding us, are nurturing us. Even that is done by Bhagavan only. Bhagavan remains Antaryami as the Antaryami for our parents, and he guides us through them. So whatever help we are getting, that is all given by Bhagavan through different forms. And he shows his motherly face through different options. He speaks nice words to us. Being Antaryami, he remains inside us and he gives good instructions, sweet words, and guides us. When brothers and husbands abandon us, he protects us. Again, this particular statement is based on how Krishna helped Pandavas when their own brothers, the Kauravas, abandoned them. Similarly, Krishna helped Draupadi when her own husbands, Pandavas, they abandoned her. And then what does he do? He places a message on his neck and goes as a messenger from Pandavas to Kauravas, to Duryodhana and so on. So he does very lowly tasks to protect us. And then wherever Arjuna showed his eyes, whichever direction his eyebrows change, Krishna drove the chariot and placed the chariot there. So Arjuna would just do like this, and then he will do like this. He would not even speak, saying go left, go right. Just by his eyebrow movement, Krishna would ride the chariot. And then he accepted many arrows and astras on his chest for the sake of Arjuna. He protected all the Pandavas from death. Every time there was some trap for Pandavas, it was Krishna who would protect them. He brought back dead people for his guru, Sandipani Munivar, when his guru was saying that your studies are over. Krishna was insisting that, okay, I'll give you some Guru Dakshina. For that, Sandipani Muni, he told, bring me back my dead son. And then there was another Brahmana. Every time a child is born to him, that child disappears. So he comes and complains to Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna tries to protect the next child. Even he fails, and then Krishna goes and fetches the children from Sri Vaikuntham, where his divine consort, Sri Mahalakshmi and others, were taking away the children to bring Krishna to Vaikuntham. So, this is all done by Bhagavan for the sake of his devotees. That he even brought dead people back to life. In these manners, Bhagavan, due to the blood relationship he has, being Narayana. Narayana means one who is having eternal relationships. 9 relationships are there between Jivatma and Paramatma. Pita, Rakshaka, Sheshi, Bharta, Nyeyo, Ramapati, Swami, Adhara, Atma and Bhokta. So these 9 relationships are there between all Jivatmas and Paramatma, Bhagavan. Because of these relationships, he remains in every Atma as Antaryami and he ensures the sustenance of the Atma. Because of all of these aspects, he is said to be the real Rakshaka, protector. And so here we can understand that Bhagavan is Rakshaka in both sense, both for our bodily aspects as well as our ultimate liberation. He is the one who can give us both. That is why our purvacharyas always depended on Bhagavan for both worldly living as well as liberation. It is not that we take care of our own livelihood and we work hard and make so much money and live happily, and that is not the goal. The real goal is to depend on Bhagavan for our bodily survival as well and ultimate liberation, and then perform eternal Kainkariam to Bhagavan. So that burden can be placed only on Bhagavan. And that is why he is said to be the Rakshaka, protector for everyone. So this is about Ananyagatitvam. And then piLLai lOkAchAryar explains about Akinchanyam. Now, what is Akinchanyam? That is explained here. Karma, Jnana, Bhakti. So Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. In addition, we can include all other upayams which are shown in Shastram, whether it is Avatara Rahasya Jnanam, Purushottama Vidya, Tirunama Sankirtanam, Divyadesha Vasam, all of these. So, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and all other upayams in those. And then the noble qualities which are required to perform these Karma, Jnana, Bhakti Yoga, and so on. It is not easy for us to perform Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and so on, because first of all, for these Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, one has to be born in Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya family as a male member, should have had Yajnopavitam and then Brahmopadesham, then only all the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga can start. And then it has to go on for several births. It is not a one birth accomplishment. So these difficulties are already there. On top of that, one should have noble qualities. But now, not having any of these noble qualities which are required for Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and so on. And not only that, one is also filled with the bad qualities which are contrary to the noble qualities which are explained previously. So one is filled with such bad qualities and one is devoid of any noble qualities which are required for Karma Jnana Bhakti Yogam. So seeing this state, and further one should realize, meditate upon the fact that one's true nature, Swarupam, is completely dependent on Ishvara in all manners. So it is not that we can be independent in some cases and dependent in other cases. Some people will say, oh, our bodily activities we have to take care of. Our liberation, Bhagavan will take care of. That is not true parithrANam. ParithrANam means being totally obedient to Bhagavan. Whatever Bhagavan says, we have to obey. Bhagavan has already laid out principles through Varnashrama Dharma, how one should remain in this world. So that is what we have to follow. We cannot do anything on our own. So the true nature of the Jivatma is totally obedient, dependent to Bhagavan in all manners. So meditating upon these, one should think we are not qualified to perform anything for our well-being, ultimate well-being. That is the state of Akinchanyam. So Akinchanyam has two aspects. One is having the ability to engage in Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Trinam Sankirtanam, Divideshavasam, and so on. Second is not having the ability. Both aspects need to be addressed. So some of us, or many of us, we may not have the ability at all to engage in Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and all of these. So we may easily say, oh, for me, Sharanagati is the easy way. But we have to look at our purvacharyas, Srimannatha Munigal, Yamunacharya, Bhagavad Ramanuja. So many of these acharyas, they were greatly capable. All auspicious qualities were there in them. Still, they only surrendered. They did not pursue Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and so on. Why? Because they understood that it is contrary to our true nature to try something on our own and reach Bhagavan. Rather, as a Paratantra, we must completely depend on Bhagavan. So whether we have the ability or not, it is not that those who have the ability can pursue Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and those who don't have the ability has to perform Sharanagati. That is not the case here. Whether we have the ability or not, we have to consider Sharanagati as the only means, and we have to consider that we are totally dependent on Bhagavan. So, considering all of these, declaring that I am not going to be able to do my own task to attain Bhagavan, that particular state is called Akinchanya. Now, the final section of the Grantham, having these two, that is Akinchanyam and Ananekatitvam, and because one has completely surrendered oneself to Bhagavan, considering Bhagavan as the Upayam, for such person, it is natural that he will be free from any burdens, because he has placed all the burdens at the lotus feet of Bhagavan. For such person, the eternal Kaikaryam, liberation followed by eternal Kaikaryam, will be available at the end of this body itself. So when this body falls down, Bhagavan will guarantee take this Atma to Paramapadam. So one need not have any burden or any fear about this. So that is established here by piLLai lOkAchAryar. And how does Bhagavan do it? That is also shown. As Bhagavan himself has said, Nayami, I will carry you. This is from Varaha Charma Shlokam. Sthite Manasi Suswaste Sharire Satiyo Naraha Dhatu Samye Sthite Smarta Vishwarupancha Mamacham Tatastam Mriyamanam tu Kashta Pashana Sannibham Aham Smarami Madbhaktam Nayami Paramam Gatim. So here Bhagavan in his Varaha Charma Shlokam, as Varaha Bhagavan, he has said, when one is well settled in one's mind, when one's mind is clear, when one's body is good, at that time, when all the bodily parts are functioning well, if one meditates upon me and surrenders unto me, who is the, that is Bhagavan is telling about him, Bhagavan is the one who has everything as his body. The whole Vishwam, the whole Jagat is his body. And he is unborn. So, when one surrenders to me, meditating upon me, when one is steady, when that person on his deathbed, if he remains as a stone or a wooden piece, at that time he may not be able to think about me. But never mind, don't worry about it. I will take such person along with me. I will come and personally take such person along with me. So here Bhagavan shows how he'll be subservient to the Atma who is surrendered to him. And he will come and carry such Atma to Parampadam. Through Archiradi Margam. The Archiradi Margam is the multiple layers which one has to cross after leaving one's body in this earth. One has to go through many different places and many different personalities who live in different regions and who rule different regions in the Brahmanda. So one has to go through those and finally go out of the Anda, Brahmandam, the oval shaped universe, and then one has to cross the Avaranas. Avaranas means covers. And finally one has to cross Mula Prakriti, and then finally one has to cross the Viraja river and then enter Parampadam, Sri Vaikuntham. So Bhagavan will look at those who have Akinchanyam and Anagatitvam and consider Bhagavan only as the Upayam. For such person, when the final moment comes, whether he is able to recollect Bhagavan or not, Bhagavan will recollect that person's Sharanagati, and he will come and carry this individual and bring that person to Paramapadam, and he will unite them with Nityas and Muktas. Nityasuris are those who are eternally living in Paramapadam. Muktatmas are those who got liberated from this samsara. So Bhagavan will unite such liberated person in that group, and then he will also grant Nitya Kainkaryam, eternal Kainkaryam to this particular Muktatma, the one Atma who gets liberated. So that is the explanation for this beautiful Grantham named Prapanna parithrANam. Prapanna parithrANam is a very important Grantham. It's a very short one, but a very impactful one. It talks about how practically everyone abandons the Jivatma from attaining the ultimate goal, and how Bhagavan is the one who is facilitating it in different ways and making it happen. That liberation is attained by the Jivatma. So that is shown in this beautiful Grantham. With this, we conclude this Prapanna parithrANam Grantham. Next week, we will see another Grantham, which is very important. We will talk about that in the next session. ஆழ்வார் திருடிகளே சரணம், பிள்ளைலோகாச்சாரிய திருடி ஆழ்வார் திருடிகளே சரணம், எம்பெருமானார் திருடிகளே சரணம், பிள்ளைலோகாச்சாரிய திருடிகளே சரணம், ஜீயர் திருடிகளே சரணம், ஜீயர் திருடிகளே சரணம். பல்லாண்டு பல்லாண்டு பல்லாயிரத்தாண்டு பல கோடி நூறாயிரம் மல்லாண்டு தின்கொள்மணி வண்ணாவும் சேவடி செவிதிருக்காப்படி ஓமோடும் நோடும் பிரிவின்னி ஆயிரம் பல்லாண்டு வடிவாய் நிலமார்பிலேன் வாழ்கின்ற மகையும் பல்லாண்டு வடிவால் சோதி வளத்துறையும் சிலர் ஆழியும் பல்லாண்டு படைபோர் புக்கும் வழங்கும் அப்பாஞ்ச சனியமும் பல்லாண்டே. Okay.